think I was a very introverted child. I did not know how to make friends. I genuinely didn't know how to talk to people because also I was an introvert. I would get bullied a lot throughout schooling.
The negative self-talk usually comes from childhood. So if you
Yes.
don't have it, that means your parents have always been around.
Well, actually, I would like to disagree with this. I don't know, this awareness came very early to me that I could be good at anything that I wanted to be.
A lot of ambitious people come out as arrogant because of they have so much energy.
Yes.
They have energy and it's hard to control because for them it's more of like I need to be 100% or 110% involved. Can you explain what is calisthenics?
Instead of dumbbells or barbells or kettlebells, like yoga, Pilates, or running, they're all different forms of, movement and fitness.
Yeah, it's amazing where people find knowledge. If you have an open mind, you can find it from the strangest of places.
Now I am at Touchwood. I'm at this point where I have like a good reputation as a coach. I have set myself apart from, maybe like coaches who have like 20 years experience, etc. I have made that space for myself in the fitness industry.
This is part of Dreamer series, where we delve into human psychology to make sense of ambition, dreams, memories, and sense of purpose, along with other human conditions, using real-life stories. Today's guest is Anupama, a certified fitness coach and a journalist. Please feel free to watch till the end. And don't forget to subscribe. It means a lot to me. So, Anupama, what is your first memory in life?
This is, I don't know, it's quite a personal story. I think this is the earliest memory I have. And it is of my parents. So my parents actually had a love marriage, right? And they met and they probably saw each other for around 8 years before they actually got married. And they had me almost immediately, right? Like I think 10 months into the wedding or so. And my first memory, I think, goes back to, 1.5 or 2 years old, where my mom, so basically she would always say that when my dad first saw her, she would braid her hair, with 2 braids, like how schoolgirls of that time did it. And that's how my dad saw her and like kind of fell in love with her, right? So this one evening, she was telling me the story. I don't know why she was telling me the story as a baby, but she was just sharing it. And she was like, you know what? We are going to braid your hair also the same way. And you greet Papa like this, you can go out and greet him. And so she braided my hair with 2 plaits. And then she also braided her hair in 2 plaits. Right. And she kind of opened the door as soon as she saw my dad coming towards the entrance and she let me go and I ran and hugged him. And I turned back and I saw my mom in the window with her 2 plaits, braided plaits. And she looks so cute and young. So I think that's the earliest memory I have. And I don't know why that stuck with me. But yeah, I guess it's an important story for all 3 of us involved. So. Yeah.
And where is this happening at this time? At this time, where is this happening?
So this, I think, was in a small village. Basically, it comes under, I think, Bellary district. It's a small town called Kudligi, right? So my dad is a government officer. He was posted there. And it is in the small town of Kudligi in the, electricity board quarters that then assigned to us. So yeah, this is the backdrop.
And were you the only child?
Yes, I was the first child, and back then, yes, I was the only child, yeah. So yeah. And
you have siblings now?
Yes, I have a sister who's 8 years younger than I am. Yeah, I think, she was definitely an accident, but yeah, a happy one for my. So yes.
Okay, and how was it growing up in the place, in the location? How was life back in time?
Well, I think so. My dad would get transferred every 1 to 2 years, right? And we stayed there, I think, till my nursery or not even like preschool. Like I was just a toddler, right? And I think I started my schooling with LKG and UKG in Mysore, which we moved after that. So throughout my childhood, we've moved a lot. So I've grown up in different places, mostly in small towns. I think my love for adventure and love for outdoors also comes from that. Right. So just my mom would just let me go play. And there's actually a picture of me, holding two flowers again as a toddler in the same place that I had this memory that I spoke about, holding flowers in my hand, and I'm casually like touching a huge buffalo. And the buffalo doesn't seem to care. And now when I look back at the photo, I'm like, my God, how did you, I asked my mom, it's like, how did you, let me go so close to the buffalo? What, did they kick me or something? And she's like, no, they don't do anything to children. So yeah, I think it was really fun. It definitely shaped a lot of my personality now. And yeah, I think that's kind of imprinted on my life now. I'm so comfortable around animals. I'm really comfortable, outdoors. Nothing really like bothers me. Like, when it comes to outdoors, it could be like, dirt or like food or whatever. I can eat any kind of food. I can drink most kinds of water without falling ill. So definitely that shaped my personality. So yeah.
So, what happened after that? So, where did you do your schooling?
Schooling was, like I mentioned, across Karnataka, a lot of small towns across Karnataka. I did some in the small town called Sandur, which is very close to Hampi in Ballari district. Then I've done a part of it in Mysore, then a part of it in a place called Davangere in Karnataka. Then we went back to Mysore. And finally, after all this, since 8th grade, I've been in Bangalore. So, yeah.
Okay. And how was schooling back in time? Did you have friends? Who was Anupama back in schooling days?
Oh, well, I think I was a very introverted child. I did not know how to make friends, and I genuinely didn't know how to talk to people. And because we moved schools almost every 1.5 years or 2 years, I don't think I have any friendships from that time, right? It's very hard to even remember the names of the friends that I had, like one or two friends that I probably hung out with. And actually speaking, I mean, it wasn't the happiest childhood because also I was an introvert. I would get bullied a lot throughout schooling, even till 8th and 9th grade. All right, when I kind of put my foot down and decided that, okay, this is not going to be my personality anymore, right? When I had that awareness. So through schooling, I don't think I really enjoyed school a lot because again, my parents were more focused back then, at least, were more focused on education. Whereas I clearly have an, inclination towards more outdoor and sport and these kind of activities. Although I did love reading, and the only thing I think I was probably allowed to do was read. And I took full advantage of that. So I would spend a lot of my time in the library, the school library. So you'd either see me in the school library or on the playground, but like nobody knew me in school until I think 11th, 12th, even till 12th grade. I think I only became more extroverted and learned how to talk to people in my engineering, which is when I think you and I, where we are acquainted from. Yeah.
And it's kind of like fascinating when you are quite young. Actually, kids are developing this kind of understanding how they have to behave. And it takes a long time for them to kind of suit a personality that fits. So it's also like a common thing in the interviews. Always kids having a hard time in school. I don't even know if they're meant to be in school, but society is more like, let's take them to school because they need to get educated. They have a hard time to get used to people around. And how was it like once you hit so you mentioned when you are in 8th grade, from then on you were in Bangalore, right? And you've been moving around a lot all over Karnataka. So how was it to stay somewhere for a longer period of time?
I genuinely have not thought about this so much, like this question, but I'm not sure if staying really impacted my personality. But I think being in Bangalore impacted my personality a lot because obviously it is a tier 1 city as opposed to all the small towns and villages that I've grown up in, right? So there's a lot more awareness. There's a, even the kids were so fashionable. The language was so fashionable, right? As compared to, I didn't know the meaning of crush, right? So when I asked somebody in school, I asked one of my, friends, like I was like, what's the meaning of crush? Like everyone laughed at me. But then it was very like, because also I was forced to adapt as a child from place to place, school to school, from state syllabus to, ICSE and like, back and forth. I think adapting was pretty easy. It did take me, I think, 3 years. By 3 years and another 2 or 12th grade, I had figured out how to make friends, how to be extroverted, how to not let somebody bully me. All of that whole process happened. I'm not sure if that was because I stayed in one place the longest. I think it was because I stayed in Bangalore. And that kind of impacted my personality.
Thinking, yeah, I would say like Bangalore, from my memories, it's a lot of freedom for everyone.
Yes,
So
exactly. Yeah.
it does add to the traits of children who's born and brought up, or like, spend a lot of time. It also makes them free as well.
Yes, that's true.
Do you have any specific memory you would like to share from high school? Something stands out?
Well, not exactly. I mean, in what context are you asking?
Asking, like, for example, you understood something important about yourself or the world.
Well, I think what I understood was that, I don't know, this awareness came very early to me that I could be good at anything that I wanted to be, right? If I put my heart to it. And somehow, when I speak to other people now, as a coach, or even generally when I speak to my friends, or even when I see on the internet, people always like, kind of tell themselves they're not good enough or something. Somehow that never happened with me. It's very strange because I don't have that talk going on in my head, right? In case there is a interview like this, or even if I have to go on camera or whatever, there is nothing in the back of my head saying you suck. I don't know why that is. But like that is something that I understood, and I very early on understood that I can be good at anything I want. I can learn anything I wanted, whether it was about grooming or beauty, or whether it was about body language or engineering or psychology or coaching. So I think that is something that I figured out. I don't know how, but it happened early on, and because I didn't have the freedom to pursue things that I was interested in. I was until engineering, or even until after I finished engineering, right? I was forced to focus on things that were chosen for me, which I could have been good at. Not that I sucked at engineering, yet I was still like a 7-pointer, right? And like when I did pay attention to, our topics, like, what is this computer organization and stuff, like I feel I actually had a backlog. I failed it the first time because I did not care to study for it. And when I cared to study for it, I got a 9.6 or 9.7 while clearing it. So that has been there. It was all about that freedom of choice, as well as what means the most to me. Right? What gives me the most happiness. So once in engineering, really, I figured out what are the things, because I got into our engineering college, Amrita, knowing that it had only 300 people as opposed to, some 10,000 people, entering an engineering college like, say, PESET or other engineering colleges. In Amrita, I knew there were just 300 people. So I was like, this is where my individuality is going to be, shown, as well as like I'll get to explore a lot. Like, I'll give you an example. It could be in Amrita, we had the choice to be a part of multiple clubs like debate and press and, dance and etc. and figure out what we were good at. But if I were in some college like, PESET or, BMS or something, then because there's so many people, like, you don't get a chance to really delve into
different
3-4 clubs. Yes, you would be bucketed into one thing, and you become like a person who's good at English, who's great with debates. That's it. And then you can't really experiment about what else you can be. So Amrita kind of gave me that freedom.
Yeah, I would like to also mention, since you talked about the voice in the people's head, the negative self-talk usually comes from childhood. So if you don't have it, that means your parents have always been around. Like they have always put out a certain kind of voice, like, okay, you're good, you're doing well to a certain extent. So that clears out a lot of negative self-talk. And I was reading a study which basically explained that the kids who have very hard self-image
Mm,
usually comes from the family because they have been very critical about the
mm.
child, or like, basically they have their own traumatic past, the parents, so
Right,
they put
right.
it towards the child. So that's a good thing.
Well, actually, I would like to disagree with this.
Mm,
I had a very critical father. I mean, now
mm,
he's obviously
mm,
changed and he's very supportive.
mm, mm,
But my dad was extremely, critical about everything that I did. He will like
mm,
never be happy with anything that I did. Like, in
mm,
fact, I
mm,
think after 30 years of my life, he told me that he's proud of me and he's finally accepted me for like, who I am.
mm,
And I'm not sure if I think my mom really kind of was a little bit more encouraging. But I
mm,
feel like whatever personality I developed or the fact that I don't give myself negative self-talk is probably because I got enough of it from outside.
Could
I
be.
think
Mm,
so. Yeah.
mm,
So I feel like I didn't need to do that to myself. I don't know how it adapted into that
mm,
personality, but probably I started blocking everything I think I got to hear from my father. Right. And as much as I don't want to say this probably
mm,
publicly, it is the truth. And while they have really changed and been very supportive now, I think it doesn't change the truth of what happened. All right.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think I learned very early on to block whatever is unnecessary in some way. Right. And that
Maybe,
happens even now.
yeah, maybe
So,
more
yeah.
self-assured. Maybe like you have been like, I could do it if I want to do it. And that
Yes.
also, like, so you believe in how you think and say like, okay, this is my truth. Everything else is their opinion on me. And so, and that's quite a confident way to move forward.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know. Yeah. It happened naturally, but I think it happened because probably my mom was more encouraging and my dad was like slightly more discouraging. So somehow I adapted to the encouraging side and latched onto that in some way. So yeah.
and before going to like, I know you explained a bit about Amrita, but how did you end up
Yeah.
in Amrita? So after high school, what was your thinking? Who was Anupama? What was the things that you cared about?
Well, I think after high school, I knew that I loved after high school also, I must add that after 12th grade, I took a drop of 2 years where
Mm,
my parents sent me to Kota, Rajasthan for IIT training, which
mm,
I didn't want to go, but I didn't have a strong enough personality to rebel. Right.
mm,
And because I was very protected,
mm,
growing up, given that I was a first child and alone, like, single for like first 8 years of my life without my sister coming in. So what happened was I went to Kota and then obviously I didn't know what I want to do with my life. I just knew I liked psychology.
Give me a moment. So just need to explain what kota is. Kota
Yes,
is
yes,
more of
yes.
like, so usually people go to kota and they have a very strict schedule on studying and preparing for Indian Institute of Technology, which is like the best engineering university in India. So a lot of
Yes.
students usually go there and they have a very hard life, basically filled with studies. Okay, now you can
Yes.
continue. So you
Yes.
went to Kota.
Yeah, to give you a concept, basically you prepare for this entrance examination, and people now schools have started training students for this entrance examination from fifth and sixth grade, which is
Aye.
how intense it is considered and how much of a competitiveness is there just to
Mm,
clear that examination,
mm,
right? And now it is called NEET. It is not
mm.
IITs, IIT
Okay.
entrance, or this one. So yes, I did spend 2 years in Rajasthan, and again, I was because I didn't have the what do you say, the rebellious personality. I just had to do whatever I was told because I
Mm,
didn't know what is the other way around, right? And I went there, and I realized that I clearly did not have any interest towards learning deep organic science, organic chemistry, and all of that,
mm,
all of those subjects. And I figured out that I'm great at math.
mm,
And, it came very logically because my dad is great at math.
mm.
So it automatically, I think, some genetically, some,
In this
brains,
form. Mm,
yes, yeah, in this form, right? And I would just solve the math problems for fun because there
mm,
was no other form of entertainment, right? We had a
mm,
Nokia phone, which is like a brick, basically the most basic model. So
mm,
absolutely no entertainment. It could store two songs. So that's like the only entertainment we had. So there was no laptops, no TVs, no books, no library, nothing, absolutely nothing. So I would spend my time daydreaming and, downloading two songs and listening to them over and over again. But I would solve math problems for fun. And after 2 years, I kind of got a little bit more rebellious. I tried to tell my family that, listen, I really do not want to pursue engineering. I really do not want to pursue science. And my family really tried very hard to figure out every possible way of pursuing science. I'm talking about Indian measurement. There was an institute for measurements and weights, I think.
I have no idea.
So they figured, yeah, I would have dug up the information if I had known this topic would come up. But yeah, so they made me prepare for CLATs, which is the law entrance exam. And they made me prepare for, because they're like, okay, if not engineering, at least law, right? And they were like, okay, you get into agricultural sciences, you try getting into, IAS, you try getting into this. And everything felt so tiring, none of it
Stressful
was
as
what.
well.
Yes, very stressful because, none of them were things that I wanted to do. I wanted to pursue psychology, right? And I think my dad came around after 12th grade, but somehow my mom had developed a resistance to it because she had done arts and she felt like her life was kind of ruined because she picked up arts and not science. So there was resistance from her side. And finally, after quota and 12th grade, I think I even tried running away one of the days, but I had to come back because I didn't know where else to go. So, yeah.
I would say, I just wanted to mention, like, it's so hard when I think back in time. It's so hard the kind of stress that parents put on you. And they don't really understand how much stress that is. I think a lot of it comes from society, how they look at the family and the children and what is our position in the society. It's very external in a sense. And they might not want someone who's an IAS officer at home, but they think it's a cool thing to have. Or people would be like such good parents, brought up an IAS officer at home.
Exactly. They are celebrated, right? Parents of achievers are celebrated. But I think sadly in India, at least back then, the only form of achievement that was considered achievement was, either being an engineer or a doctor or an IAS officer. So, I mean, of course, my parents had my best intentions at heart. But I wish they could at least earlier on see how unhappy I was with this whole process. But also from what I understand with conversations with my parents now, my mom says that I never really expressed that sadness. Somehow I just kept it all in and I just, internalized it. And I never clearly told them. So this is the narrative that they have. That they have in their head. And the narrative that I have in my head, that is I kept telling them and telling them and telling them and they never listen. So there are different narratives to this, obviously.
And memory is a strange thing that sometimes people forget. Like I would say, usually children are quite straightforward, but they also have this kind of thing like, I need to make my parents happy. So they are also playing like a middle ground on how to make both that happen. And there's a lot of emotional manipulation happening as well on the side for the good of the child from their head.
Of course, it's all well intentioned, right? I mean, and again, I would like to say that I'm very lucky to have them. They're both very well educated. They're both very accomplished, both of my parents. My mom is a criminal lawyer and she's a private investigator. And my dad is, an electrical engineer who has a master's in finance also. So academically, they are extremely gifted. But somehow they just saw me taking the same path. And again, it was all with good intentions, right? And they all operated from the amount of awareness that they had at that time, which I can't really hold resentment, for them, for what happened, right? It was just circumstances.
And now we are like 30, and you can see that like, what is an adult in a sense, right? When people have kids when they're 25, you can understand, like as a 25-year-old, what level of knowledge or awareness do I have? So it's very hard to judge them. They were young, they're struggling, and they were trying to build up a family. And
Yeah.
now we would move to the next after Kota. So how did
Yes.
you end up in Amrita? So you
Amrita,
reached
yes. I
Kota,
think
you
so. Yeah, I think so. I'd almost run away and I'd done all of that. Nothing was working out, and I finally told myself that you like math.
Hmm.
Okay, how bad can it be? You just figure out a way to deal with 4 more years
Hmm.
and start earning. Okay,
Hmm.
because there's clearly no other way around it. I felt pretty defeated. All
Hmm.
right. And I was like, there's no other way around it. So let me make the choices that are in high control.
Hmm.
Right. So I I was like, ठीक है, चलो engineering करना है, ठीक है, करेंगे. Like we will do it. We have to do it. We will do it. So I picked a college that allowed me, although I don't think my parents were very aware about all these, plans that are happening at the back of my head. But that time I think I'd really reached that level of maturity where I was like, I am extremely clear to trust my intuition and I'm extremely clear to understand what I enjoy and what I might, what I, like I said, like I knew that anything that I put my heart to, I would be good at. Right. So I was like, okay, I'll pick then engineering college. I'll get through 4 years and then I will do whatever the hell I want to because then no one can stop me.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you have any dream or a place as a child? What was your kind of like, oh, I want to be like people would be like, oh, I would be like to be a scientist or an actor or I don't know. Like, did you have any of those kind of ambitions growing up?
Well, I think this is something that I've spoken about even in other interviews. When I actually think back about as a baby, as a toddler, what did I fancy being? I think I wanted, but this is term. I wanted to be a warrior princess. Okay. So I wanted to be somebody who is really strong physically. And I wanted to be somebody who was obviously in some sort of a luxury, right? Like a luxury, right? Because like I could just be a warrior, but why warrior princess, right? I wanted to be somebody who is like, pampered and like have that, at least even if it's self-earned, right? I think have that power, have that kind of money to just abundance. Exactly. Abundance is the word. And I wanted to be strong. I wanted to kind of lead. And I think as a baby also, probably because I was bullied a lot, maybe I wanted to I saw that as an escape. I'm not sure, but I wanted to be that. And, now when I like a little further down the line, I think I really, wanted to kind of represent India in some sort of like Olympics or be a sportswoman because, my mom was a sportswoman also on a national level. So because I had a better relationship with her, obviously, I wanted like I wanted to be like her. Right. So I wanted to be a sportswoman, which I think I am now. So,
But
yeah.
coming back to Amrita, so you started
Yeah.
Amrita with this plan.
Yeah.
And what happened
Yeah.
after that?
Well, like carried forward with the plan. Like I think I remember Gautam Nair was the president when I had just got on day one of Amrita, and he was like, handing out these forms or whatever, and he was like, okay, I asked him like, who are you? Like, what are you? What is your this one? And he was like, I'm the cultural president. And in my head, I was like, oh, I want to be that. And I think I told him also. I think I'm not sure if he remembers this, but obviously I remember it very vividly. I told him that I want to be the cultural president, and it just stuck on day one of college, stuck in my head that okay, maybe this is something I want to be. Yeah. So then I started putting effort into becoming becoming a part of all the clubs that I was interested in. So there was debate club, there was drama club, then there was math, which I was obviously interested in, sport and press. So I was a part of all five, which is also why I failed in computer organization and architecture because it was too much to handle. But yeah, and I did apply to be the cultural president in my second year. I was one of the leading people to me and to Rajshri, Bharat and Harini. We three were like the top people who were meant to be. None of us were. That's an entirely different story. But, we were we really put in the hard work. Yeah.
It's always, when it comes to those kind of positions, it's always something or else changing the dynamics. But is there any story that you would like to share from your 4 years in Amrita, which you thought was, it stick to you?
Well, I think what shaped me in Amrita was actually this point because I had put in so much of my time and effort to, take part in all of these clubs, get an understanding of all of these clubs. Because to be the cultural president, you have to learn how all clubs operate, not just how one club operates, right? What are the nitty gritties of like these small, small clubs? And I had worked under so many of them that I was like, anything that I was not already a part of, that I would be able to handle it if it came my way. Right. So that's a preparation that I had made. I think now that's pretty much how you become a CEO of a company or on a bigger level. When I learn about business and all of that, it's the same game on a same logic on a higher level. Right. So when that happened, and this is the end of my second year, and for some reason I was not chosen to, to be the cultural president because I had applied only to be the cultural president. And now that I look back, slightly arrogantly and slightly in a more confident way, I applied saying, you either makes me the president or nothing. So that was a kind of a test, I think, by my, people from the council that was choosing us, which was our teachers. And they saw that probably this could be a little bit more egoistical or arrogant for them to handle. So probably I didn't get the position. But suddenly all those hours, the number of hours, and the amount of effort that I put in to this in my third year, because I was not the president and I was quite bitter about it. I was like, now I'm not going to take part in anything. I'm going to take a step back and relax. But I had so much energy to give. I didn't know what to do with my life in third year. So I started a food blog.
Okay.
On my Instagram, right? And I started a food blog, and that went pretty viral in college and outside. And that led on to me becoming a food blogger initially, and then led me on to become a food writer as well as this one for Times of India. So I think that was
the trajectory that ended up there.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like a lot of ambitious people come out as arrogant because of they have so much energy.
Yes.
They have energy and it's hard to control because for them it's more of like, I need to be 100% or 110% involved in this and you need to push it. So I understand like teachers might be reading it and feeling like, okay, this, because in their point of view, a leader might be slightly different. The definition might be slightly different. So it's a fun way to remember back how people define these things differently.
Of course. And I think they genuinely took a right call because, from their perspective, at the end of the day, it's attitude that matters when you're a part of the team, right? And it's not just about leading. And probably they saw it as, she doesn't have that awareness yet.
Exactly.
Probably, so they probably saw that headstrong character as, problematic in the future, which I don't blame them for. I know now when I look back, I'm like, yes, that is a good call. I would probably take that call, and probably, see that attitude or whatever that comes. They're a team player. So maybe they didn't see me as a team player. I don't know. But I'm sure they had their reasons and it all worked out for me. So I have no resentment about it at all. So, yeah.
And what happened after Amrita? So you finish your studies and your food blog is doing great. So what is happening?
So my food blog was doing great. And I think by that time I had realized that it was too late to be a sportswoman, representing the country. And, basically I figured out that food is my first love. Food and sport are, equal level, and sport is something I couldn't pursue. So I put my energy into food writing, and I basically needed to escape home to kind of be able to explore. Yes. So I went to Cognizant and I worked there for 2 months. That was my escape. While I was in Cognizant, I started looking for all the jobs that allowed me to write about food. Right. And there was a cloud kitchen called Fresh Menu, basically, which delivered food, and they had a very unique concept. They had a weekly revolving menu, and they would serve food, like, so I was really doing pretty well back then. And I found this job opening, and fun fact, they had put say that the requirements said you need to be a journalist with 3 years experience. You must have had done masters and all of that. I didn't give a shit about any of it. I was like, you know what? There's no harm in applying. If I don't get it, I don't get it. Right. And my cousin brother had given me some great advice. He said the answer is always no if you never go for it. Right. And that, I think, has stuck in my head. The moment he said it, it stuck in my head. So I applied anyways. And I realized that, they called me back for an interview. So I was in Chennai back then. I came back to Bangalore, gave the interview, wrote it. And when the interviewer, who's going to be my manager, he was interviewing me. And when he realized I'd come down all the way from Chennai just for this interview, he realized how passionate I was about writing about food. So, I didn't hear from them for 2 weeks. So I thought, okay, probably I was not selected because I was not a journalist. And reached out to the HR on mail saying, hey, I haven't heard back from you. I would really love an update, even if I'm not selected. And they immediately responded saying, no, you're selected. We got busy. Sorry. So, and then I came down to Bangalore and took that job. And the reason I stopped food blogging was because when I got into food blogging, it was already a very saturated market. Like every Tom, Dick and Harry was a food blogger. And also you have to understand the perspective of a chef. In the service industry, the chefs have worked at least 14 hours a day when they start out. And they're paid something like 11,000 per month or maximum maybe 14,000 per month. So they have really worked 20 to 25 years. And now they're working in a restaurant as a head chef. And a 23-year-old girl comes and tells them their food sucks. They're not going to take you seriously, right? It's like a 40-year-old making the food, whether it's good or not, it doesn't matter. But they will not listen to a 23-year-old sit there and talk about food, right? So I understood that being a food blogger doesn't have any clout, right? To be taken serious, I can't age. So the only other way was to find a solid footing as a journalist. So that's when I changed my strategy of becoming a food blogger. And I was like, I love writing about food, but if I want to be taken seriously, I should work for media. Right, I should become a journalist. So I applied to be a journalist at Times of India, a small segment called What's Hot Bangalore, which specifically deals with lifestyle journalism. So that is how I proceeded from being a food blogger to a food writer, and realizing that, this is not going to work. It's neither going to get me money or like a clout, basically. And you need clout. You need clout you need to either be very old or like very experienced to, for people to take you seriously. So then I changed the way I dressed. I changed my complete wardrobe to make sure that I looked older. I looked more sorted out. I looked more like I was serious. And then I, became like a journalist and dressing up like in exactly like how people expected me to on that job. So that's when, I became like more that I became a proper journalist, basically.
And how does it feel like to write a blog? Not like a blog. What I meant was like, how does it feel like to work for Times of India and write, like, do you get feedbacks from the readers? How does that feel like?
Well, I don't work for Times anymore. I quit in 2020. And, when I got there, we didn't really get feedback from the readers. It was more about just giving information in a very fun, engaging way, right? Basically, it is marketing and selling, right? If I'm talking about a surf club, how do I make sure that I talk about how much thrill surfing is and like how that feeling of standing up on a wave feels like, or, that wind in the air, that adrenaline when you catch your first wave, all of that. So how do you describe that experience or activity for the reader, right? So it's about storytelling, right? So I think Times and even the job I had before that, which was again a print magazine, basically, it was still journalism. Those jobs taught me the art of storytelling, right? How to passionately talk about whatever topic, it could be a burger. It could be surfing. It could be, any other activity like a hike or even a spa, a session that, you should sign up for. So feedback we got from my editors and my colleagues and my colleague who's also now one of my closest friends. Her name is Roshni. She was the one who kind of groomed me into how to, storytell in that way, how to weave a story that way. So it's a lot of fun because I think that now plays into my own career when it comes to branding and marketing for my coaching sessions, for my media interactions, for me to be able to tell a story to people. I think it has really played a part.
So you moved from finishing engineering to doing a food blog to being a journalist. And what happened after that?
Well, so what happened after that was that I think the job I had at times was my dream job, right? I got to write about food. I was able to give feedback to people because we were press people who especially even the chefs and everything. And this was genuine feedback. Not that I'm going to boast about myself. Like I had really put in the effort to learn about food. Even if you see my library right now, like it's 50% food. It's all books about food and the research and the all that went into it. But the reason people not take us seriously was because, we would just look young or we weren't as experienced, etc. Right? So that was my dream job. But what started happening is my health started deteriorating badly. Right? I did mention that I came from a sport background and my mom was an athlete and even I enjoyed sport a lot. I played volleyball with the neighbor boys and, I would play sport in any possible way, right? Wherever it was available. I started seeing myself gain weight. And it was really shocking and this of course happened because we had to write about food and eat food, not just food, like alcohol as well, like, all forms of edibles, like, that were full of calories, right? So there was really no stopping to how much we were consuming because it was a part of our job. And often we were offered the best things to eat, right? So it's not like we would have a bite and be like, oh, we're not going to have this now.
Because really give us
yeah, exactly. So, my health started taking a bad hit, like my skin changed, my weight changed, my sense of dressing had to change because, or none of my clothes fit, and all of that, right? So, then I had to take a very hard look at myself in the mirror and say that I should really get back to some form of, fitness. And my mom had also made sure that I went to, these dance fitness classes before joining engineering. So that was something that I kept doing through engineering, which also had a very large impact on my physical and mental health, which I'm very thankful to her for. But when I started working, obviously I didn't have the money because as a journalist, when you start out, you get paid very less. So I stopped all of those fitness sessions extra. So I got back to that. And I was introduced to CrossFit and I was introduced to calisthenics where, I picked up on that. And then obviously because I was already interested in sport, this was just pretty much the same thing. It was just like a outlet. So I picked it up and my body also responded very quickly because it was not like I started from scratch.
Before we go deeper into that, can you explain what is CrossFit and calisthenics?
Yes. So CrossFit is a form of fitness that's quite popular. I think it's been around for like 10, 15 years or even earlier. Basically, it is, elements of, fitness, which involves weights like barbell or dumbbells or kettlebells and, gymnastic rings like this. So CrossFit is just a form of fitness, right? It's like yoga or Pilates, running. They're all different forms of, movement and fitness. Calisthenics is that form of movement of fitness where you use, instead of dumbbells or barbells or kettlebells, you use your own body weight, right? Instead of, using a dumbbell and doing a chest press in your gym, you lie down on the floor in the form of a plank facing the floor and you push your own body up, right? It's the same movement, whether you're pushing a dumbbell while lying down or you're pushing your body weight while lying down, you still work the same muscles as your chest muscles. So calisthenics is basically using your own body weight for, you're training your body. as opposed to CrossFit, which uses CrossFit of functional training, which uses weights and other equipment.
And just want to mention, like, it's very popular in Stockholm as well.
What is it?
Both
CrossFit,
of
I'm
them,
sure.
yeah, very, very
Wow.
popular. Like, there is CrossFit gyms across the street, like
Yeah.
everywhere, and people
Okay.
really like it because it's quite intense,
Yes.
and the kind of body you build is functionally strong in a sense.
Yes,
So
definitely.
they really, like, people really are into CrossFit and
Definitely.
bodyweight training over here as well. But
Uh-huh.
continue. So you came to the knowledge of, oh, this kind of workout methods exist. What happened after that?
Yes. But I do want to add a point about the CrossFit and the calisthenics thing. The reason these two, even like these runners groups, all of them work is also it has a sense of community to them. And I think that's why people are so,
Exactly. Yes.
addicted to it. It's not just about maintaining their health or body. It's that sense of belonging that these spaces,
Create.
make available for you. Right. So yeah, anyways, back to the CrossFit and this one. Well, this happened to me also. It was not just movement. It was also that I had a wonderful teacher, right? Like, after my, what do you say, engineering, this was well into, 2.5 years into working, right? I had an amazing teacher. I was also personally going through something, relationship wise. So, I needed some outlet for that energy that I had. I needed some outlet for all that sadness or, depression that I was kind of feeling. And I don't want to say depression very lightly, but like it was a very challenging time for me. Yeah. So this became a great outlet. I had my community. I had my people at the gym who were equally enthusiastic about movement. I had my teacher who would spend, my coach, basically my CrossFit coach, function training coach. His name is Praveen. He would stay back after classes and teach us random things like, a headstand or a handstand or how to get out of a gunpoint, how to get out if someone's, pointing a knife and like, you're at knife point, right? So all of these things kind of got me interested in movement. And I realized that when my friends who were also there, who were also equally interested in these things, had missed one of these sessions where, Coach Praveen was teaching, I would teach these things to them. And I would find a lot of joy in being able to teach them, in being able to empower them. And I would be like, come, let's do a handstand now. Praveen taught me this. We'll practice. And we would all practice together. And when they unlocked it gave me a lot of joy. Like, it made me so happy that I realized that maybe I'm a good teacher. Maybe I could be a good coach in some way, right? And that was an inkling that started that, maybe someday, I'm not sure, like, pick up teaching or something in some way, right? So yeah, I got into fitness properly. And 6 months into me being introduced to calisthenics, we again had a community where we worked out of a park. We would work out in a park which had these pull-up bars and parallel bars and stuff. We had a community of people. And my coach, his name is Suhail, he said, the calisthenics national championships are happening in India for the very first time. Do you want to take part? And I was like, no, my dream job is to write about food. So I don't want to take part in it. Like, I want to continue writing about food. I don't want to take time away from my life to compete and train to be an athlete, because I had realized that it was way too late. I was already 25 then, right? It was way too late for me to even think about representing the country or something like that. So he was like, see, there are not too many people who can not too many ladies whom I know who can do a pull-up at this time. So no pressure, just take part in it. You don't need to do anything extra. Whatever you're doing right now, just do the same. I will guide you. And I was like, okay, if it's not too much of, commitment, then I'll try it, right? And because also there was no added pressure, right? I think I did it more successfully and came out of it more beautifully than I may have if I had that pressure to compete as an athlete. Yeah. So when I did take part, I was placed runner-up in the national championships.
Okay.
So yeah, that was, that was like a pleasant surprise. And, I remember like there was like a few seconds between me and the champion. at almost like another 10 seconds. She got it 10 seconds. She was faster than me for 10 seconds, which was great because she had been training from the time she was 17. And I just started at 25. It was 6 months into training. So I was very easygoing on myself, saying, if I don't beat her, it's okay. Right. And
like, just for people who's listening to imagine,
yeah,
how does
yeah.
it feel like? For example, what kind of things do they measure on? Is it like pull-ups? Is it like speed?
The competition itself, right?
Yes.
So the different types, there is something called freestyle calisthenics, which is very similar to gymnastics, when you need to perform tricks on the bar, like a 360 round, you're hanging, very similar to gymnastics. Then there is something called endurance category, all right, and then there's something called the strength category, right? Then there is the weighted category. So there are many different categories. So mine was the endurance category, where they give you a circuit. Okay, so 10 pull-ups, 15 push-ups, 20 squats, 10 pistol squats, exactly, all of that. And you need to finish the circuit in the shortest amount of time with the cleanest form, right? So they will tell you about how to exactly do a pull-up. Like your chin needs to be above the bar and you should not swing, right? And you need to start from a dead hand to all the way into this one. And if they say this is not counted, you to repeat the rep. So mine was the endurance category with a time. This one. So whoever completes it the fastest wins the round. Right?
You should be very fit, basically. Should be very fit.
Yeah, please go on. Yeah.
I was thinking like you should be very fit, and also your how do I say it? So your muscles should recover quite fast. So
yes. Yeah. You have to train for that specific type of category. You cannot train for, so there's something called weighted calisthenics, where you do a pull-up while wearing weights. So you're doing 20% of your weight, 30% of your weight. When I say 20% of your weight, then if you're 60 kgs, then it is probably, 72 kgs pull-up in the next. So there is that category as well, where you don't need to perform with speed, right? You just need to be having that strength to pull that much weight up. So it's an entirely different category where you need to train in a very different way for that. So yeah, it's different types of fitness. And mine was very, more agility, more reflexes, type of thing. As I mentioned, I was very quick to adapt, right? With whatever I was put through. I think a lot of my childhood also played into this. So, yeah. So I could adapt to endurance faster. My endurance was very fast. It was quite this one. So.
And what happened after that? So you finished as a runner-up in a national competition, and what happened after that?
Well, so this was 2018, and after this, I was kind of clueless about what to do with that championship, right? Because there were athletes who were training specifically for this, and they were like putting so much effort into just becoming an athlete, and I was like, and this is not even my dream. I don't even want to pursue this. So then I was like, maybe God's given me this opportunity to make something out of it instead of just letting it go. So I decided that I would do the calisthenics certification to have it as a side hustle, because I always believe that you need to have at least 2-3 sources of earning. And, you need to at least have because see, I was an engineer. The only reason I became a journalist was because I took that effort to write in college, to freelance as a writer, and I built that skill. So I always believed in having that extra skill, right? So that's when I signed up. I thought about it a lot. I spoke to a lot of different people. And strangely, everyone was quite discouraging about this idea. They were like, no, what will you do? After becoming a fitness trainer, in case you get old and you're not able to manage your health, then who's going to train with you? And I kept saying, don't look at all of that. There are no certified female coaches in India. Don't you think being the first will account to something, right? It will open gateways to a lot of things, right? When you are the first, people often, that is the only way you can break this experience barrier, right? Yeah, because in your food blogging and this one, even as a journalist for that matter, experienced journalists or even any job for that matter, experienced people will always, have a lot more advantage.
The
right?
ones who came in the start has a huge advantage to take the
Exactly.
market. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, I will never be able to break the, experience aspect of it in any other field that I signed up for. Here I'm getting a chance to be the first, which means no one's gonna be, expecting me to be an experienced person here. Because like I'm going to be the first, so I am going to be building that experience for others, right?
Right.
So I trusted my intuition. I'm very thankful for, the Snoop Dogg video where it's like, I thank me. I thank myself for putting the hard work. So this is one of those times when I'm very thankful for trusting my intuition and taking that call. So I went against everybody's better thinking and I said, I will do this. If it fails, it fails. I still have my journalism, but I'll do this and see where it goes. And the moment, I quit my Times of India job on, I think, 31st July 2020 in the lockdown, I quit Times of India. August 1st, I had 5 clients, who would train under me. So opportunities just poured in. I think lockdown also, while it was quite harrowing for a lot of people in a lot of different levels, including me, for my own mental health, that was a time when everyone was focusing on fitness and health.
I have a question. How did they find you, the 5 clients? How did they end up at you?
It was my network of journalists, marketers, college people, people who I'd worked with, people on Instagram who had seen me working out, all my friends and friends. Basically, that initial network is what,
made it happen.
First client, yeah.
And I have to tell you, I don't know about Indian market, but there is a lot of certified female fitness coaches in Sweden, and it's very high in demand. People really care about staying fit. Back home, it's a guy's thing, at least the way people look at it, but it's a human thing. Everyone needs to get fit.
Yes, that's true.
So I'm not gonna take a tangent. So you got your first 5 clients. What happened after that?
Well, it was a lockdown. I had nothing else to do. So I'd quit my Times of India job. And even if I wanted to write about food, there was no way I could write about food, right? Restaurants were shut. People were not allowed to go out. So obviously lifestyle as we know it, our outdoors and, spas or salons, everything lifestyle was just shut. Right. So even if I wanted to write about food, there was no opportunity for us to write about food. Even in, what sort Times of India, we weren't writing about anything lifestyle anymore. We were just reporting news articles that, this is available now, groceries available now, so everyone was acting on that that the interest was in a very different topic, right? So I told myself, okay, you get back to writing about food when you can. For now, you be lucky that you're still able to earn through this and you have all this one. So I took up coaching and I became a full-time coach until I thought I would be a food writer again. It became, coaching was so in demand at that time, especially again because of the pandemic and everything. And I picked up calisthenics when bodyweight training and calisthenics was the need of the moment, right? Because nobody had access to gyms in lockdown. Right. So very few people had equipment at home. So the only way they could train themselves was do bodyweight workouts, was to do calisthenics. And I was literally certified in calisthenics. So, it is some divine intervention. Yeah, it was all aligned. There's no other way I could, I can even say it was anything else. It cannot be a coincidence. But the demand was there for calisthenics. I was right here and it was a good match. So I was just, I kept getting clients and I kept learning. I found myself a mentor. So I kept learning through him as well. And that's pretty much, and because
a lot of people might also wonder, how did you find a mentor? What was the process like?
Oh, right. This is very important. I'll tell you, I think what had happened was, look, for me, right, even because we are engineers, you will understand this. We know how to learn quickly. We are good learners, right? We know how to learn one day before the exam and still manage a 7-pointer or a 8-pointer. So for me, learning the topic was very easy. And what had happened is in calisthenics, because calisthenics was not something that was so prominent in India when I entered it, I felt like I had reached that point where I could learn anything more from the coaches who were available at that moment, right? So I was desperately looking for somebody. I talked to a lot of coaches from CrossFit, a lot of coaches from functional training and all of that. But, of course, their movement methodology was very different, right? And I was also reading books. So because of the lockdown and also because mental health was taking a hit, my own physical health was also starting to take a hit. And I had this conditions called scoliosis. It's scoliosis, yeah. Where your spine, basically, when you see from the back, if you see this view of the spine now, it should be straight, right? So my spine was coming straight and slightly, going to the side and then coming back. There was a slight curve. So that condition is called scoliosis. This was just starting and I had noticed this changes happening. So I reached out to a physiotherapist who was online. Okay, his name is Dr. Dhairya he has a company called FitNat. Okay, Fit Natural, so it's FitNat. And I reached out to him to get and his page was not his English was not on point, and I wasn't very sure if it was a shady business or if he was trustworthy or anything, but he had some crazy transformations that he had put up. And I'm not talking about fat loss transformations. He had some injury transformations where a person's injured and then they're competing in 6 weeks, right? So I was like, this sounds like hocus pocus, but I will still give it a chance and have a conversation with this person. So when I did, and I was like, let me do this for 6 weeks and see how it works. And when I did reach out to him, he was all of 24. So, and I was 28, 27 or 28 at this time. And he looks much older also. So you weren't sure. You think he's about 35 or so, but he's actually way younger. The way he speaks is also like an older person. So he told me, okay, we're going to do this, and my condition improved. And I realized that he is an extremely knowledgeable person for somebody who's that young. And also I needed to cut him slack because I myself had been judged for being young, right? So I was like, I'm going to, see where this goes. And when I realized the gold mine of the treasure of knowledge that he had, which was so undiscovered, I immediately told him that, can you, please be my mentor? Can you please, can we do? And I don't think he understood mentoring then, right? Because he was quite young, right? How would a 24-year-old even think about mentoring somebody who is older, right? So I told him, you know what, just, you whatever workouts you're giving me as homework, let's meet 2 to 3 times a week. You make me do them on, on screen over Google Meet. And I will ask you whatever questions I have. And I think because I was also curious and he was also very patient in answering all these questions, we developed a deep friendship, right? So, we have this very good mentor-mentee relationship now where, whatever questions I have, whatever things I need to know, I go to him first. And that's how I found myself a mentor. So very unlikely, but
yeah, it's amazing where people find knowledge. You can find it if you have an open mind. You can find it from the strangest of places.
Yes. So, have you heard this thing where when you're ready, the opportunity presents itself?
Yes.
So it's something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. When the student is ready, the teacher shows up.
Yes, exactly. When the student is ready, the teacher shows up. Yes, exactly. Yeah, definitely. So. Yeah.
Okay, let's continue to the last segment. So,
yes.
So you started getting clients. What else? So, where has life? What is the distance between that point and now? What is happening in between that?
So, my idea of starting, becoming a coach started out as a side hustle, right? I never imagined that I would not be a food writer because I really thought that was my life. But once I, kind of realized the scale at which calisthenics can be taken, right? There is no dependency on physical availability of the coach. There is no dependency on equipment. There is no dependency. There's so many variables that are just taken out of question. It hit me as to what a brilliant way of coaching this was, right? Yes, training with weights I still love. I still love deadlifts and all of that. Personally, I do. But imagine the kind of people you can reach with calisthenics. People who can't afford gyms, people who can't afford, like premium memberships or equipment or etc. Now, all that money they're spending on that, fitness is a premium thing type of thing. That basically, yes, that access, right? Now, all of that money can be spent on their health and nutrition. Maybe buy fresh vegetables, right? Maybe address deficiencies, right? So I was mind blown by how amazing it was, right? And this I only realized when I started researching about, if there were any coaches in India, how many coaches were there in India for calisthenics, right? That's why I took that call to become a coach in spite of people telling me that it's not as this one. And now I am at Touchwood. I'm at this point where I have like a good reputation as a coach. I have set myself apart from, maybe like coaches who have like 20 years experience, etc. I have made that space for myself in this industry. I've carved out that niche. People know me. People know me as a good coach. And I've built a solid reputation, right? So now what I want to do is now launch it at scale. Launch it to people who can't afford it. Launch it to people who don't have access to gyms, right? And take calisthenics to those areas where, normal fitness can't go. So that is this one. And now I'm in the process of being a Touchwood, building a team and all of that. Figuring out who are the right partners, who are the right people with the right attitude, with the good intentions, but also have a solid balance with, because at the end of the day, good intentions is great, but if it's not rewarding monetarily, everyone loses motivation. So it has to be a good balance of this and that, right? So now identifying people who could be prospective co-founders and all of that, because now I have a network of people who are ready to give me opportunities, but I need to build a team, right? So from there to here, I think it has been a very interesting journey, and I think one highlight I would like to add is that Manchester City feature. So yeah, that was a mind blowing thing that
How did that happen?
Basically, I picked up football recreationally with this group called Sisters in Sweat, and I remember, and like I wasn't exactly so deep into football that I was crazy about supporting teams or anything. But then I saw a notification on the Sisters in Sweat. It's called Sisters in Sweat. This is basically a community that teaches women how to play sports from scratch. It could be football, basketball, cricket, whatever it is, running, swimming, everything from scratch. Because women don't really get that opportunity to start sport from scratch in adulthood, right? So they identified the gap and they were like, we're going to empower women. So I also started learning how to play football from scratch from Sisters in Sweat. And they put out a story saying, we are collaborating with Manchester City. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, Sisters in Sweat is based out of Bangalore. It's a very hyper local thing. Even in Bangalore, it's in Indranagar and MG Road and everything. But it's backed by some, crazy, highly accomplished women who are actually Nike coaches. And there are only 4 women Nike coaches in the country. And there's only 1 male coach, 4 female coaches. So Sisters in Sweat is backed by 2 of them. And because it had that pedigree, I think Manchester City collaborated with them. And I remember congratulating them and putting up a story saying this is awesome and stuff. And 1 week later, I get a call saying, listen, Manchester City wants to do a video about you. I was like, are you crazy? Like, what are you saying? Like, Manchester City wants to make a video about me? Like, I'm a recreational player, like, who's still learning, like, the rules of the game. And, I'm not really, like, a pro or anything like that. Why would they want to make a video about me? Like, it's not even one feature where, you're playing and your face is visible somewhere. They're like, they want to make a video about me, like a 2-3-minute video about me. And I was shook. And I was like, are you, like, what is happening? And then, they said, no, it's also because of your extracurricular activities and you have, you've been surfing and you've been playing football. They just want to highlight somebody who's picked up sport in adulthood, and they want to talk about, somebody who's doing something good in their careers, right? Something impactful in their career, which is, this whole calisthenics bit and everything. And I was told that they made a list of women that, for this possible feature, and I fit the bucket the best because of it. And, rest is history. And I think Manchester City really opened a lot of avenues for me. This is something I never saw coming or manifested or thought or, planned. I don't think you could even plan to be featured in a person.
I think a lot of things are like divine intervention in a sense. Like, so it's more like when I feel like when you're very connected to your heart and when you're following your intuition and what you want in life, the world kind of works for you in a sense. How to boost this person to get where they want to. And it's a thing. I see it in many people's life. I have it personally. So this is there in a grand scale.
Yeah. And I think good intentions are rewarded always. When you have good intentions, it's okay if, something, happens where it goes off balance, you're treated badly, or, you meet not so nice people or whatever. But at the end of the day, when you are very clear about, I don't want to stoop to this level. I have my intentions in place, and I know that, life is not fair. I'll do the best with what I can, and I'll just be nice to all the people I can and help in any way possible. I think it truly comes back. And it's a lot of, I personally had a lot of advantages also because my parents are well educated. My mom was very intentionally, ensuring that I take care of health. My nutrition was personally taken care of by her. That's a lot of privileges, right? That's a lot of very good privilege and a very good time. Even my dad, for that matter, like, I don't have to worry about, taking care of my parents financially. So there are a lot of advantages that came into play, but also I think just being well-intentioned and being nice to people and seeing how you can give back, right? It all comes back.
What is sent to the world comes back to you.
Yes, what is sent to the world comes back. Yeah. Yes. On a grand scale, I would like to say, actually. On a very grand scale. So
I have a few final questions for you. What would you say is the future of female fitness in India, according to you? In the coming years, how would it evolve?
I think it's going to be an amazing thing. I don't even it's not that something that I even want to say I am going to work towards this. Okay. It's already there. Like when I first got into the calisthenics championships, I knew maybe 4 other girls who could do full pull-ups. Now every other girl can do a pull-up, right? You go to the gym, like every girl is repping out pull-ups, right? And this is tier 1 cities now. Tier 2 cities, thanks to social media, tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities have also started being exposed to health and fitness, being exposed to sport thanks to communities like Sisters and Sweat. It's going to be amazing. I think a lot of people are finding avenues to do it. I think a lot of people are also getting braver about and having that willpower to find a way out, right? They are finding their way out and they're not stuck. So that goes to women also. The health of women is it's only going to get better from here, for sure.
And what is the mindset someone needs to be fit? How should someone think about fitness?
I think the way to go about it is, I think 2 to 3 things. First is always ensure that you don't pursue it too hard, right? Not like, Instagram and social media creates that illusion that you need to, oh my God, be this ripped, like a really ripped version. It's not that. Health is about 20 minutes that you can take out in a day. As simple as that. 20 to 30 minutes. If you can take 1 hour, that's privilege, right? You can take, 1 hour, 4 days a week, it's a privilege. If not, 20 to 30 minutes a day is enough and sufficient. And then they have to look at it like eating or drinking and breathing and going about our normal activities. Like brushing your teeth. what will happen if you don't brush your teeth? Obviously, your teeth is going to get plaque
Eating.
and get yellow or so on. What's going to happen if you don't take care of your muscle? Obviously, your muscle mass is going to reduce and your health is going to go down the line. So we have to start seeing it as something that is not a privilege, but is a mandate, right? And yes, it is up to us now, coaches like me and others, to make it a non-privileged thing, to make it available for everybody. So, and people also should have that mindset to look at it as, this is something I need to do. It's not a something that can be just let go of. So that's one thing. And second thing is, they need to also prioritize some amount of money and investment. Very basic. There are fitness courses starting from 500 rupees per month. You can get fit to 500. Forget 500. You get free workout tutorials on YouTube, right? For beginners, even that works, right? They need to be able to say, I prioritize health with some amount of money. I prioritize health with some amount of money for my vegetables and protein and nutrition. So this is the way they should go about it. Unless they want to pick it up as a hobby, like, how I did, and make it a full-blown thing. But that's a personal choice. So, yeah.
And then I have final question.
Yes.
What do you think makes someone healthy and happy?
I think first is their mental health. They need to, like you have a health coach, you also need a mental coach. I believe that everyone, it's a very difficult process to figure out things by yourself. It's a very long process. Even with figuring out how to do a pull-up by yourself is going to take a much longer time than hiring a coach and learning it in 2 sessions, right? Same goes for mental health. To be happy, I think, even our physical health is connected to our mental health. It's connected to the way we think about things. I had an advantage that I don't have that negative self-talk. Right? But not everyone functions that way. And I have other issues, always wanting to stay in control, always wanting to, lead. So there are some things that even I had to work on, like a lot of people have to work on. So I think a lot of the mental, happiness comes from, first prioritizing mental health and figuring out our patterns and seeing how to get better. And then comes next step is physical health, right? So I think a combination of these two will really keep a person peaceful, not happy, peaceful. And then happiness is a habit. You need to pursue it by doing the things that you love, spending time with the people that you love, eating good food, prioritizing what gives you joy personally. For somebody staying indoors might give them joy. For somebody staying outdoors might give them joy. That's a personal choice. Right. So happiness is a separate thing, but being peaceful is a combination of maintaining good mental health and maintaining good physical health.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I think it's a good time for us to close the podcast.
Yes.
But also I would like to talk to you 5 minutes after the podcast.
Surely, yeah.
But to anyone looking to find Anupama, all the social media handles will be in the description. So please find it, support her, and definitely make use of her knowledge.
Yes, anytime. Yeah. I would like to add that if anybody wants to reach out for a discussion or for help or just tips or whatever it is, I'm always open to having a conversation. So please reach out to me on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, either works.
Okay.
So yeah.
Bye guys.